Namaste and Siddhi Pranam. Welcome to your today's topic, the female reproductive system. Let's understand the basic functionalities of the female reproductive system first. So basically, the female reproductive system comprises of interconnected organs and tubes that are capable of facilitating conception and providing all the necessary sustenance to grow a fetus. After birth, the system continues to support the newborn by providing or producing breast milk, which is considered to be the ultimate source of nutrition. So in a nutshell, what it does, the job of the reproductive system is to conceive the baby, nurture the baby, deliver the baby, and also give a healthy nutrition source to the baby. That is the basic primary function of the reproductive system. So let's discuss the organs that help create new life. The vital reproductive organs are situated inside the pelvis, plus another add-on organ is breasts, and all of them are regulated by specific areas of brain. So we include the part of the brain that regulates the breast, the function of the breast, and all the organs that consist inside the pelvis region as part of the reproductive system. So the female reproductive system comprised of the uterus, vagina, ovaries, and fallopian tubes that works in tandem to facilitate the creation of life. So the vagina, through its receptive nature, allows the entry of an erect penis, thus facilitating the delivery of the sperm to the cervix at the entrance of the uterus. The ovaries serve as the storage and development center for egg, with one or very rarely 2 eggs being released each month and making their way through the fallopian tubes towards the uterus. So if fertilization occurs during the journey, the egg will develop into the embryo and continues to grow within the uterus, which undergoes a significant expansion over the course of the next 9 months that we call the baby. The ovaries also play an essential role in the reproductive process of producing key hormones. So, as a prenatal yoga teacher, it's essential that you understand the functioning of the reproductive organs, as this knowledge can greatly enhance your ability to provide safe and effective yoga practices to the would-be mothers. So during pregnancy, the reproductive organs undergo numerous physical and hormonal changes that can affect a woman's posture, balance, and overall comfort level. So by understanding these changes, you can better support the students with the fact that how to maintain a healthy pregnancy. And since you understand the organs involved, you will be less likely to make mistakes or put them into risk of injury. So let's really understand each organ and its function in detail. These are just the overview of the different organs, starting from the hypothalamus gland in the brain, the pituitary gland, the breast, then coming into the pelvis region, ovary, fallopian tubes, uterus, vagina. So you can have a broad look on all the systems involved in creating the reproductive system. So next, the first organ is the vagina and the cervix. So basically, the vagina is a vital reproductive organ that connects the uterus to the vulva. So during sexual intercourse, the vagina accommodates the penis, and during childbirth, it expands to become a birth canal. It's made up of an outer layer, a middle layer of muscles, and an inner layer of ridges known as roof. The vaginal wall does not produce secretions, but it is lubricated by the cervical secretions. So the vaginal environment is acidic due to the presence of natural bacteria, which helps in protecting the body against germs. The cervical canal or the neck of the uterus opens into the vagina and forms a connection between the two. The cervical canal is lined with specialized epithelial cells that creates an obstacle course for sperms to navigate and secrete mucus that varies throughout the menstrual cycle. The mucus is generally hostile to sperm, except during ovulation when it becomes sperm friendly, so acting as a reservoir and prolonging the life of the sperm. During pregnancy, a mucus plug seals the cervix to protect it from the outside environment. So in conclusion, basically, the vagina is a flexible canal that plays a critical role in reproduction and childbirth, while cervical canal helps to protect the uterus from outside influences and helps in sperm's navigation, allows the sperm to navigate to enter into the egg of the mother. The next organ is uterus. So the uterus is the central player in the reproductive process and functions as the site for fertilized egg implantation. So this is a muscular organ comprising of 3 layers: the outer premetrium, the middle muscular myometrium, and the inner endometrium. So the uterus undergoes significant changes in size during the pregnancy as the baby grows inside the womb. And it also has a vital role in the menstrual cycle, as the uterine lining, which is also known as endometrium, thickens each month in preparation for the potential pregnancy. So the endometrium, made up of functional layer and basal layer, is really responsible for renewing itself each month. So it has a specialized blood supply consisting of straight arteries in the basal layer and the spiral layer arteries in the functional layer, which allows for an efficient flow of nutrients to support the potential pregnancy. However, when hormone levels fall for the women, the contraction of the endometrium layer causes the spiral arteries to coil and restrict the blood flow, which actually leads to shunting of the blood via direct connections to vein and eventually to the death of the functional layer cells, resulting in shedding of the endometrium and onset to the menstruation cycle. So basically, in layman words, the endometrium layer waits for some sperm to enter and really develop in the egg. But if the egg does not mature, the endometrium layer shed itself through the body, and that results in the menstruation cycle. So overall, the uterus really plays a crucial role in the menstrual cycle and the pregnancy, with the endometrium layer and its unique blood supply central to the reproductive process. The next organ is fallopian tube, which is fallopian tube is also a crucial part of the female reproductive system that really helps facilitate the movement of a mature egg from ovary to uterus. So it is a narrow tubular passage, you can say, with specialized feature including fimbriae that helps to capture the egg. That feature is known as fimbriae, that helps to capture the egg and direct it towards the uterus. That's the main job, giving the direction to the egg to the uterus. So the fallopian tube has 3 distinct regions: the infundibulum, the ampulla, and the isthmus, each with varying diameters and structure. So the fimbriae at the outer end of the fallopian tube works in conjunction with the cilia to create a current that draws the egg into the tube. So the interior of the tube is lined with cilia, and its muscular wall helps propel the egg along its length. So once the egg reaches the middle third of the tube, it is in a position to be fertilized. So basically, the job is to move it towards the end part of the fallopian tubes, such that it becomes ready to be fertilized. So if fertilization occurs, the zygote, the first cell that forms after the amalgamation of the egg and the sperm, the zygote will continue to move along the fallopian tube and into the uterus, where it will implant in the uterine wall. So the fallopian tube's unique anatomy, including all the specialization with fimbria, cilia, and mucus wall, is really essential in a successful transportation of the egg to the uterus, and also very much playing a role in successful fertilization and hence being pregnant. So the tube's different region, each with their specific structure, work together to ensure that the egg reaches its destination and that it is in the best possible position for fertilization. That's a role of the fallopian tube. Now, coming on to ovaries. So ovaries also play a very, very crucial role in the female reproductive system and also in creation of life. So one of its key component is that it acts as a factory for producing and releasing eggs. So it basically acts as the building block for the potential pregnancy. Hence, it has a crucial role of producing and releasing the egg. So the ovaries are located on either side of the pelvis, and they are responsible for producing mature egg and hormones such as estrogen and progesterone that regulates sexual development and the menstrual cycle. So despite the small size they are in nature, like in the size of the ovaries are very small, similar to maybe that of, like, you can say an almond. Ovaries are like an almond size, but ovaries contains tens and thousands of immature eggs that mature over time. So from puberty, the eggs and their surrounding follicles undergoes a cycle of development, culminating in the release of mature eggs into the pelvis area. So basically, the finger-like projections then pick up the mature egg, called the fimbriae, and they propel it into the nearby fallopian tube. So the length of the tube is about around 4.5 inches to or you can say about 12 centimeters, and it acts as a transport system for the egg, carrying it from the ovary to the uterus. So if fertilization occurs, the fertilized eggs, now which is known as the zygote, so basically it was an egg coming from the ovary, traveling through the fallopian tube, becomes the zygote, which now travels down the tube, dividing and growing as it prepares for implantation in the uterine wall. So in this way, the ovaries and the fallopian tubes work together to bring a new life into the world. Now, the next organ is the breast. So breast has multifaceted role and it serves multiple purposes. So the main purpose would be sexual satisfaction and also in nourishment of the baby. These are the main two functions the breast plays the role in, and it's made up of complex network of lobules that produce milks in response to hormonal shift that particularly occurs during pregnancy and the breastfeeding period. So the connection between the breast and reproductive system is close, very close, with the breast development occurring during puberty, and further the changes also takes place during and after the pregnancy to accommodate the lactation for the mother. So the structure of the breast also includes glandular tissues, fat, and the supportive tissue that helps maintain its shape. So the glandular tissue is composed of lobules, and the gland cells are arranged in clusters known as alveoli. So the small tubes from the alveoli merge to form a primary ducts that leads to the nipple. So during pregnancy, the high level of estrogen and progesterone activates the glands and ducts to prepare the milk production. So a woman's breast shape is determined by her genetics, the amount of fatty tissue in the breast, and the muscle tone. So that is the primary function of the breast and the process that leads to generation of milk, and the various little sub organs or cells that plays a role in critical function of breastfeeding as a mother. Now, the next important part is pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is a small structure located at the base of the brain that secretes a number of hormones, including those that stimulate the ovaries also. So the pituitary gland plays a very vital role in regulating the menstrual cycle as well as the ovulation. That is the key function of pituitary gland in the reproductive system. It also has many functions otherwise for a human body, but these are the main functions that it plays into the reproductive system. The next crucial gland is hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a region in the brain that serves as the master gland, and it is responsible for triggering and controlling the secretion of hormones from the pituitary gland, including those that regulates the menstrual cycle and ovulation again. So the hypothalamus is also involved in range of bodily functions, including like regulating temperature, hunger, thirst, etc. Now, really understanding the reproductive life cycle of a female. So, a newborn female infant is born with an ovarian reserve of 1 to 2 million immature eggs. So, still this number decreases over time, and by onset of puberty, around 400,000 eggs remains. So on a monthly basis, only one egg is typically released, although advances in technologies have really extended the windows of reproductive opportunity for some women, but the ability to have children is really limited and typically ends when menopause occurs around the age of 50. But in contrast to that, men have more significant potential to father children, and can do so much for and can do it much later, like to an extended period, maybe even in fact until 60. From the onset of puberty until the onset of menopause, mature eggs are periodically released from a woman's ovary. So while a woman's fertility starts to decrease gradually from the age of 27, it experiences more rapid decrease from the age of 35. So let's dive into fertility and age. So age really plays a very vital role in a woman's reproductive capabilities, so exerting a very significant impact on the fertility. So the primary determinant of fertility is closely linked to the quantity and the quality of woman's egg. So as a woman ages, her eggs undergoes a natural degeneration process, so leading to reduced fertility over time. So the gradual decline in both egg count and quality poses a lot of challenges for conception and healthy pregnancy in the later age for the women. So fertility rates vary across different age brackets. In 20s, the women experience the peak of their fertility with 25% chance of pregnancy per menstrual cycle and a 96% likelihood of conceiving within an year. While fertility in the 30s remains relatively good, it also has almost 86% chance of conceiving within the year. But a lot of challenges comes once the women turn 35, as the fertility starts to decline more rapidly. By the time the woman is in her 40s, the natural conception becomes very challenging, and hence a lot of women these days opt for assisted reproductive technologies such as IVF, etc. But it has a lot of higher risk and complications for the pregnancy also. So overall, understanding the integrated relationship between fertility and age is really crucial for us to understand the reproductive life cycle of a female. So let's understand about the sex hormones in the female body. So the female reproductive system is governed by two essential hormones, estrogen and progesterone, which are produced primarily in the ovaries, and these hormones are responsible for a range of sexual and physical developments and the changes that occurs in the female body, including puberty, the menstrual cycle, and the fertility also. The production of these hormones is regulated by two additional hormones, which are luteinizing hormone, also commonly known as LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH in short. So which are produced by the pituitary gland and at the base of the brain, and are in turn regulated by hypothalamus. So the hormonal fluctuation experienced by a woman can also impact her emotions, leading to mood changes during the menstrual cycle. Additionally, the male hormone testosterone also plays a role within the female body, although it is present at a very low level relatively or comparatively to male. But it still has a role to play in the female body. Estrogen, on the other hand, has a very vital role, and it plays a key role in growth and development of the female reproductive system. It's primarily responsible for physical changes that occur during puberty, and plays a crucial role in growing the reproductive organs well as maturation of eggs within the ovaries. So this hormone also helps regulate the menstrual cycle by thinning the mucus in the cervix and stimulating the growth of the uterine lining. Estrogens, you can say, are a group of similar chemicals, with estradiol, estriol, and estrone being three main hormones produced in significant amounts. So the level of these hormones vary throughout the woman's life, but estradiol is the predominant hormone from menarche to menopause. So estrogen is basically mainly produced by the ovaries, but it is also synthesized in smaller amounts by the adrenal glands and the fat cells. So excessive weight can actually lead to elevated estrogen levels, which may negatively impact the function of the ovaries and reduce the chances of being fertile as a woman. The next important hormone is progesterone, and which is also essential for the preparation of the endometrium each month, as well as maintaining it in case of pregnancy. So in the absence of pregnancy, the fall of progesterone levels leads to menstruation, basically. So progesterone also prepares the breast for milk production, and finally that leads to helping the mother with feeding the baby. Next would be testosterone. So finally, despite its presence is quite low in the female body, but testosterone is also essential for the growth spurt experienced during puberty by the female, as well as signaling the end of childhood growth through the closure of growth plates, basically. That is what the role testosterone plays in the female body. Now, let's discuss about the physical changes that occurs during puberty in a female body. So puberty is a stage of development that brings about a series of physical changes in both boys and girls. So the order in which these changes takes place can really vary, but generally telling you, the first physical visible change is the appearance of the breast bud in the girls, which is a small area around the nipple that starts to protrude from the chest wall. So this is referred to as theralge, and is usually followed by the growth of pubic hair and the armpit hair in the female body. Over time, the breast continues to grow and develop, as does the pubic and the axillary hair also. The genitals also mature during this stage, and the uterus also enlarges as the girl approaches the menarche age, basically, which is entering into her first menstrual period. In addition to these physical changes, girls also experience a change in body shape during puberty. So their hips and the pelvis widen and they tend to grow taller. On the other hand, boys typically experience the onset of puberty about 2 years later than the girls. And during puberty, they too go through physical changes, including the growth of pubic and armpit hair, and increase in the muscle mass, and kind of deepening of the voice. So puberty is an essential stage in a person's or a human's development, bringing about changes that help to define their adult bodies and sexual characteristics. These changes can be exciting and confusing at the same time, but understanding what to expect can really help ease any anxiety and allow us to really embrace the process with confidence. So, first thing that occurs is the hormonal changes in the puberty that leads to all the physical changes. So when a child transforms into an adult, both physically and hormonally, it is a very complex process that triggers a delicate interplay between the hypothalamus in the brain and the pituitary gland, as well as the ovaries. So the process of puberty really begins with releasing of gonadotropin, releasing hormone, also known as GnRH, from the hypothalamus, which then stimulates the pituitary gland and produce follicle-stimulating hormone, which is FSH, and luteinizing hormone LH. So these hormones then trigger the ovaries to produce estrogen and progesterone, the two essential hormones responsible for the changes that occurs during puberty for creating the monthly menstrual cycle that follows. So the release of these hormones is regulated by negative feedback system, whereas the levels of estrogen and progesterone rise, the levels of hormones that stimulate the release are reduced. So first, the hormones that are responsible for stimulating estrogen and progesterone are in higher numbers and levels, but once they have done their job, they begin to release their levels and reduce in levels. So this actually ensures that the process remains in balance and under control, allowing the body to undergo the changes of puberty smoothly. So in a nutshell, I would say puberty is a crucial stage in human development and is regulated by complex interplay of hormones, and the crucial role is played by the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, and the release of GnRH triggers the chain of events that leads to production of estrogen and progesterone, the hormones that are basically responsible for all the changes and leading to menstrual cycle. Now let's continue to understand in detail about the menstrual cycle. So the female reproductive system is very complex and it involves series of physical and hormonal changes that occurs every month. And these changes are triggered by release of specific hormones in response to development of a mature follicle in the ovary. So this process of follicular genesis basically begins with the growth of immature eggs and takes about 28 weeks to reach the maturity. So the monthly cycle of a woman's reproductive system involves fluctuation in 4 hormones: the follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, the LH, estrogen, and progesterone. So the 28-day cycle begins with the shedding of the uterine lining, known as menstruation, which lasts for several days. The thickening of the uterine lining follows this in preparation for the potential implantation of the fertilized egg. The period when the uterus is this is the period when the uterus is most receptive to implantation, and it is called the fertile window. And it occurs during a week-long window starting 5 days from the ovulation. So basically, FSH stimulates the growth of mature follicle, and LH triggers the release of a mature egg from the ovary. Estrogen levels peaks just prior to ovulation. So, and then progesterone levels rise, causing the endometrial layer to thicken. So estrogen and progesterone work together to cause the endometrium to thicken by about 6 millimeter and ready for embryo implantation. So if the fertilization does not occur, the functional layer or the endometrium layer sheds itself, and hence the menstrual cycle begins. So during a woman's reproductive life, only around 400 mature eggs will be released. The majority of eggs simply die in the process, and it is essential to understand that a delicate balance of hormones controls the monthly cycle, and any disturbance in balance can really affect the ability to conceive and maintain the pregnancy. So let's understand in depth, the difference between regular and irregular menstrual cycle. So having a regular menstrual cycle is really essential for pregnancy, as it indicates that the reproductive system is functioning correctly and the ovulation or the fertile window is occurring. So ovulation is the release of an egg from the ovary and is necessary for pregnancy to occur. So if a woman has an irregular menstrual cycle, it may indicate that she's not ovulating regularly, so which can make it more difficult to become pregnant. And also, in addition to affecting the chances of becoming pregnant, and in a irregular menstrual cycle can also impact the pregnancy itself, even though if it happens. So women with irregular menstrual cycle may be more likely to experience complications during pregnancy, such as gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, or at times premature birth also. So it's really important as teachers to make the students understand the impact of and importance of a regular or irregular menstrual cycle, and how important it is to have regular menstrual cycle, and if they don't have regular menstrual cycle, then to take some health measures to have it regular prior planning to conceive. You can also really guide them through a healthy yogic lifestyle or some yogic asanas to regulate the menstrual cycle and promote reproductive health. And there are many resources within this course, and of course there are outside the course. There are many resources, yogic resources, that you can get your hands on to really guide the would-be mothers to help them regulate their cycles. So now let's understand how yoga can really aid in having a healthy reproductive system and a reproductive also the pregnancy. So prenatal yoga has a powerful connection to the functioning of a reproductive system, especially during the pregnancy. The gentle movements, the breathing techniques, the relaxation practices that we teach the mothers can really help keep the reproductive system functioning optimally and promote overall health of the baby and the mother also during the pregnancy period. And one of the key ways that yoga can really help the reproductive system is by reducing stress level. Chronic stress can really have adverse effect on the reproductive system, including altering the hormone levels, disrupting the menstrual cycle, and reducing the chances of conception if the woman has not conceived. And if she has already conceived, then also reducing the stress level is very much important to maintain a great health for the mother and the baby. Prior to conception, it also can really help the mother to reduce stress and promote the sense of relaxation and reduce tension in the body, which is really necessary and a very healthy ground to conceive. So prenatal yoga also really helps in improving the circulation that is required to keep a healthy reproductive organs or a healthy reproductive system basically. And when we increase the circulation, it helps in improving overall health of the reproductive system, but it also provides essential nutrients and oxygen that is required by the reproductive organ. And another way that yoga can really help is by strengthening the pelvic floor muscles. The pelvic floor muscles play a very critical role in supporting the uterus, bladder, and other reproductive organs. So during pregnancy, the uterus expands and it puts an extra strain on the pelvic floor muscles. So yoga can really help strengthen these muscles, reducing the risk of inconsistent any kind of risk or of injury to the organs, and really help in supporting the organs, reproductive organs, via the pelvic floor muscles. So one more thing that yoga can really help is promoting hormonal balance throughout the pregnancy journey. And since also during pregnancy the hormones change quite significantly and hence have a very crucial role to play in maintaining a healthy pregnancy, and yoga can really help balance those hormones and promote overall health of the mother and the baby and the reproductive system during the pregnancy. I really hope this was informative and helpful and understanding the process of the reproductive health and how the mother body is equipped to conceive naturally. I hope it helped. Thank you and namaste.